The black space near the edge of human territory was usually empty and quiet. Today it was not. Hundreds of alien ships moved through the darkness like glowing jewels. Their hulls were made of crystal that caught and bent starlight into rainbow colors. Each ship was 3 times bigger than anything humans had ever built. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked out at his mighty fleet. His 4 arms moved across control panels while his large purple eyes watched the displays. The Zephyrian Empire had never lost a battle. Today would not be the first time. "Admiral," called his second-in-command from across the bridge. "The humans are responding to our message." Vextar's mouth opened to show rows of sharp teeth. What the humans called a smile, his people called a threat display. "Show me what they sent." The main screen lit up with an image of a small ship. It looked like a metal box with engines stuck on the back. The hull was gray and dirty. Scratches and dents covered its surface. Small weapon ports dotted the sides like tiny dots. Next to the massive Zephyrian dreadnoughts, it looked like a child's toy. The bridge crew began to laugh. The sound echoed off the crystal walls and grew louder. Some officers pointed at the screen. Others made jokes in their clicking language. "That is their response?" Vextar asked. His voice was full of disbelief. "One ship? One tiny weak ship?" "Yes, Admiral," his aide replied while trying not to laugh. "Long-range scans show it is called the Meridian. It appears to be a cargo hauler with basic weapons added." Vextar looked at the human ship again. He had seen stronger vessels used to carry garbage between planets. "How many crew does it hold?" "Scans detect maybe 200 life forms, Admiral." "Our smallest escort ship carries more warriors than that?" The Admiral's laugh was like breaking glass. 200 humans think. "They can stop the greatest fleet in the galaxy. How amusing." The Meridian moved closer to the Zephyrian formation. It flew in a straight line without any fancy moves or tricks. Its engines left a simple blue trail behind it. Everything about the ship looked basic and cheap. "Admiral," another officer called out, "we are getting a transmission from the human." "Vessel, put it on screen," Vextar ordered. "I want to see the face of whoever is foolish enough to challenge us." The image changed to show the bridge of the human ship. A woman with brown hair and dark eyes appeared on screen. She wore a simple blue uniform with silver stripes on the shoulders. Behind her, Vextar could see other humans working at basic control panels. Everything looked old and used. "I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earthship Meridian," the woman said. Her voice was calm and steady. "You have entered human space without permission. Please state your business here." The Zephyrian bridge erupted in more laughter. Some officers fell out of their chairs. Others pounded their fists on control panels while they laughed. Vextar held up one of his hands for quiet. "I am Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire. We go where we please, human. Your small territory now belongs to us." Captain Vasquez did not look scared or angry. She just nodded slowly. "I see." "And if we refuse to accept your claim, then you will all die," Vextar said simply. "Look around you, Captain. Count my ships. Each one carries enough firepower to destroy a moon. You have brought one tiny vessel against my entire battle fleet." "I can see your ships, Admiral," Captain Vasquez replied. "Very impressive. May I ask why the mighty Zephyrian Empire needs so many ships to claim one small human territory?" Vextar's eyes narrowed. Was this human mocking him? "We bring many ships because we can. Because it pleases us to show our strength. Because we want all species to know what happens when they resist us." "I understand," the captain said. "And what happened to the other species that resisted you?" "They learned to kneel," Vextar answered. "Or they died learning." Behind Captain Vasquez, Vextar could see human crew members working at their stations. They moved calmly and did not seem worried about the massive fleet surrounding them. This puzzled the Admiral. Most species started begging for mercy by now. "Captain," Vextar said, "I will give you one chance because I find your courage entertaining. Surrender now, and your people will become slaves instead of corpses. Refuse, and we will turn your little ship into space dust." Captain Vasquez was quiet for a moment. She looked directly at Vexstar with those dark human eyes. Admiral, I have a counteroffer. Leave human space now, and we will let you go in peace. The Zephyrian bridge exploded with laughter again. This time it was so loud that Vexstar had to shout to be heard. You will let us go? He roared. Human, are you insane? Do you see what surrounds you? I see your ships, Admiral, Captain Vasquez said calmly, but I think you do not see mine. Vexstar looked at his screens again. Long-range scans showed empty space in all directions. The Meridian was alone. What game are you playing, human? He demanded. There are no other ships here. No, Admiral, Captain Vasquez agreed. There are no other ships, just the Meridian. Vexstar stared at the screen. Either this human was completely crazy or she knew something he did not. The Admiral had conquered 47 different species. He had seen every kind of trick and trap, but he had never met anyone this calm when facing impossible odds. Human, he said slowly, explain yourself. Why do you think one ship can fight my entire fleet? Captain Vasquez smiled. It was a small, sad smile. Admiral, has anyone ever told you about human history? I know enough, Vexstar replied. You are a young species. You barely left your home planet 100 years ago. You have fought small wars against each other, but never faced a real enemy. That is true, the captain agreed. We are new to space. But Admiral, in our short history, we learned some important lessons. What lessons? Vexstar asked. He was curious now. We learned that the biggest army does not always win, Captain Vasquez said. We learned that sometimes the smallest force can defeat the largest one. We learned that victories often go to those who think differently. Vexstar laughed again, but this time it sounded forced. Pretty words, human. But words do not stop energy beams or plasma cannons. No, they do not, Captain Vasquez agreed. Admiral, I'm going to ask you one more time. Please leave human space. Take your fleet and go, or what? Vexstar demanded. What will you do if I refuse? Captain Vasquez looked directly into the camera. Her eyes were steady and sure. Then we will stop you. With what? Vexstar shouted. Your cargo ship? Your 200 crew members? Your tiny weapons? With whatever it takes, Captain Vasquez said simply. The Admiral had heard enough. This human was either brave or stupid, and either way she would die for it. Captain Vasquez, you have wasted enough of my time. I am going to destroy your ship now. Watch my weapons charge and know that you brought this on yourself. Admiral, Captain Vasquez said, I tried to warn you. The transmission ended. The screen showed the Meridian again, still floating alone in space. It looked even smaller now that Vexstar was angry. All ships, the Admiral commanded into his communicator. Target the human vessel. Prepare to fire on my command. Across the fleet, massive energy weapons began to charge. The crystal hulls glowed brighter as power flowed through them. Hundreds of weapon ports opened like hungry mouths. On his command display, Vexstar could see every ship in his fleet, the first battle squadron with its 6 dreadnoughts, the fast attack wing with 30 destroyers, the heavy support group with its massive carriers and their fighter swarms. Over 200 ships in total, each one a masterpiece of Zephyrian technology. And facing them was one human cargo ship. Admiral, his weapons officer reported. All ships report ready to fire. Vexstar looked at the Meridian one last time. The human ship had not moved. It just sat in space waiting for the end. Admiral, another officer called out, we are detecting some kind of energy buildup from the human ship. Vexstar checked his sensors. There was a small increase in the Meridian's power output, but nothing significant. Probably just the humans charging their shields before they died. How much of an increase? He asked. About 15% above normal, Admiral. Still well within safe parameters for a ship that size, Vexstar nodded. The humans were probably trying to strengthen their shields. It would not help them, but he could understand why they tried. Admiral, his communications officer said, the human ship is sending another transmission. Put it through, Vexstar ordered. He wanted to hear Captain Vasquez beg for mercy. Captain Vasquez appeared on screen again. She looked exactly the same as before, calm and ready. "Admiral," she said, "this is your final warning. Leave now or face the consequences." Vextar's anger boiled over. "Human, you face 200 warships. You have one old cargo hauler. What consequences could you possibly threaten me with?" Captain Vasquez looked at him for a long moment. Then she said something that made Vextar's blood run cold. "Admiral, you are about to learn why humans do not build the biggest ships in the galaxy." Before Vextar could ask what she meant, the transmission ended again. "All ships," the Admiral commanded, "fire at will. Destroy that human ship now." But even as he gave the order, Vextar felt a strange worry growing in his mind. Captain Vasquez had been too calm, too sure of herself. What did the humans know that he did not? He was about to find out. The first energy beam struck the Meridian shields with a flash of blue light. The human ship shook but did not break apart. More beams followed from dozens of Zephyrian destroyers. The space around the Meridian lit up like a deadly fireworks show. Admiral Vextar watched the attack with satisfaction. The human shields were holding better than he expected, but they would not last long. Already he could see them flickering under the constant bombardment. "Cease fire," he commanded after 30 seconds. "Let me see what remains." The weapons stopped firing. The bright flashes faded away. When the light cleared, the Meridian was still there. Its hull was scorched and blackened. Pieces of armor plating drifted away like metal snow, but the ship was intact. "Impossible," whispered Vextar's second in command. "That much firepower should have destroyed them completely." Vextar studied his sensor readings. The human ship had taken heavy damage, but its main systems were still working. Its engines were running. Its weapons were still online. Even its communications were active. "Perhaps human ships are tougher than we thought," suggested his weapons. "Officer, no," Vextar replied. "Their technology is primitive. Those shields should have failed in the first 10 seconds. He paused to think. "Unless they have learned to build better defensive systems than our intelligence reports suggested." A new transmission came from the Meridian. Captain Vasquez appeared on screen again. Her bridge was filled with smoke and sparks flew from damaged consoles. A cut on her forehead bled down her cheek. But her voice was still calm. "That was an impressive display, Admiral," she said. "Are you finished showing off?" The Zephyrian bridge fell silent. No one could believe what they were hearing. The human captain was mocking them after surviving their attack. "You should be dead," Vextar said slowly. "How are you still alive?" Captain Vasquez wiped blood from her forehead. "Human ships are built to last, Admiral. We learned early that space is dangerous. We make things that do not break easily. Your shields will not save you from our main guns," Vextar warned. "That was just a test with our light weapons." "I know," Captain Vasquez replied. "But Admiral, I noticed something interesting about your attack." "What?" Vextar demanded. "You used 37 ships to fire on us," she said. "That means you have over 160 ships that did not shoot. Why is that?" Vextar felt his anger growing again. "Because 37 ships should have been enough to kill you 10 times over." "But they were not," Captain Vasquez pointed out. "So why not use all your ships? Why hold back?" The Admiral realized she was right. He had ordered his fastest ships to attack first while keeping his heavy dreadnoughts in reserve. It was standard Zephyrian tactics. Use small forces first to test enemy defenses, then bring in the big guns to finish the job. "Because I wanted to see what you could do," he admitted. "Now I know. Your shields are stronger than expected, but they will not survive our heavy weapons." "Perhaps," Captain Vasquez said. "But Admiral, I am curious about something else." "What?" "Now?" Vextar asked impatiently. "Your empire has conquered many species, correct?" 47 different worlds, Vextar said proudly. "From the crystal cities of Andros Prime to the floating platforms of Kepler 9. And how did those conquests usually go?" Captain Vasquez asked. Vextar did not understand why she wanted to know this. but he was happy to brag about Zephyrian victories. The same way this will go, human. We arrive with overwhelming force. The enemy sees they cannot win and surrenders. If they are foolish enough to fight, we destroy them quickly. How quickly? Captain Vasquez pressed. Most battles last less than an hour, Vextar replied. Some species surrender without firing a shot, others fight bravely but die fast. The longest battle in our history lasted 6 hours. 6 hours, Captain Vasquez repeated thoughtfully. And what was special about that battle? Vextar's chest swelled with pride as he remembered. The Corvan Defense Fleet tried to stop us at their home system. They had good ships and brave crews, but in the end, they fell like all the others. I see, Captain Vasquez said. And in all these battles, did any enemy ever surprise you? The question caught Vextar off guard. Surprise us? How? Did any species use weapons or tactics you had never seen before? Did anyone fight in a way that made you change your plans? Vextar thought about this. A few times enemies tried new formations or different shield configurations, but nothing that mattered in the end. Superior firepower always wins. Always? Captain Vasquez asked. Always, Vextar confirmed. That is why the Zephyrian Empire rules this part of the galaxy. We have the biggest ships, the strongest weapons, and the best trained crews. No one can match our military power. Captain Vasquez nodded slowly. I believe you, Admiral. Your empire clearly knows how to build powerful fleets and use them well. Vextar was pleased by the compliment. Maybe this human was finally understanding the situation. But Admiral, Captain Vasquez continued, can I tell you something about humans? Speak, Vextar allowed. Humans have a saying, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Do you know what that means? Vextar's translator struggled with the phrase. I think you are saying that large things make loud noises when they collapse. Captain. Vasquez smiled sadly. Close, but not quite. It means that being big and powerful can sometimes be a weakness instead of a strength. Ridiculous, Vextar scoffed. Power is always better than weakness. Usually, yes, Captain Vasquez agreed, but not always. Admiral, have you ever heard of David and Goliath? No, what are they? An old human story, Captain Vasquez explained. A giant warrior named Goliath challenged an entire army. He was huge and strong and wore thick armor. Everyone was afraid to fight him. Sensible, Vextar commented. Why fight when you cannot win? But one young man named David accepted the challenge, Captain Vasquez continued. He was small and weak compared to Goliath. He had no armor and no big weapons. And he was stupid, Vextar said. Perhaps, Captain Vasquez agreed. But David had something Goliath did not expect. What? A sling and a stone? Vextar frowned. His translator was having trouble with these words. A sling? What is that? A simple weapon, Captain Vasquez explained. Just a strip of leather that can throw stones very fast and very accurately. That is no weapon for fighting a giant warrior, Vextar protested. That is what Goliath thought too, Captain Vasquez said. He laughed at David just like you are laughing at me. But David used his simple weapon to hit Goliath in the only place his armor did not protect him. Where? His forehead. One stone thrown at exactly the right spot and the mighty giant fell down dead. Vextar was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed louder than before. Human, are you comparing yourself to this, David? Do you think you have some magic stone that will defeat my fleet? No magic, Admiral, Captain Vasquez replied. But I do have something your intelligence reports missed. What? Vextar demanded. Human. Creativity. Before Vextar could ask what she meant, alarms began sounding on his bridge. His sensor officer was shouting something about energy readings. Admiral, the officer called out. I am detecting massive power fluctuations from the human ship. Vextar looked at his displays. The readings showed the Meridian's energy output was climbing rapidly, but the numbers made no sense. Check your instruments, he ordered. These readings cannot be correct? I have checked them twice, Admiral, the sensor officer replied nervously. The human ship is generating power levels that should be impossible for a vessel that size. On the main screen, Vextar could see the meridian beginning to change. Sections of its dull gray hull were sliding apart like puzzle pieces. Underneath, something was glowing with a soft white light. "What are they doing?" Vextar whispered. Captain Vasquez answered him from the communication screen. "We are showing you what human creativity can accomplish, Admiral." The hull sections continued to retract, revealing more of the glowing core beneath. The light was getting brighter and the energy readings were climbing higher. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "whatever they are powering up, it is unlike anything in our databases." Vextar felt a cold fear creeping into his heart. For the first time in his long military career, he was facing something completely unknown. "All ships," he commanded, "target the human vessel and fire everything we have. Destroy it now before it can complete whatever it is doing." The order went out across the fleet. 200 Zephyrian warships turned their weapons toward the meridian and prepared to unleash the full fury of their arsenal. But Captain Vasquez was not finished talking. "Admiral," she said, "you asked me earlier what consequences you would face if you did not leave. Would you like me to show you?" "Human," Vextar snarled. "In 10 seconds you will be dead." "Your threats mean nothing." "They are not threats, Admiral," Captain Vasquez replied calmly. "They are promises." More sections of the Meridian's hull pulled away. The glowing core was now visible as a crystalline structure that pulsed with inner light. The energy readings were off the scale. "Admiral," his sensor officer screamed, "the power levels are beyond our ability to measure. Whatever that thing is, it is generating more energy than our entire fleet combined." Vextar stared at the screen in growing horror. The modest cargo hauler was transforming before his eyes into something else entirely. Something that made his massive dreadnoughts look like toys. "Impossible," he breathed. "How could they hide that much power in such a small ship?" Captain Vasquez heard him. "Admiral, you made the same mistake that Goliath made. You looked at the outside and thought you knew what was inside. You saw a small, weak ship and assumed it was helpless." "But the scans," Vextar protested. "Our sensors showed a simple cargo vessel." "Your sensors showed exactly what we wanted them to show," Captain Vasquez replied. "Admiral, meet the real meridian." The last hull sections retracted completely. What floated in space now bore no resemblance to the ship they had been mocking minutes before. The crystalline core was huge, easily 3 times the size it should have been able to fit inside the original hull. It pulsed with energies that hurt to look at directly. "All ships fire!" Vextar screamed. "Fire everything!" Now, but as 200 alien warships prepared to unleash destruction, Captain Vasquez spoke one final time. "Admiral, you wanted to know about human creativity. We took your idea of building bigger and stronger weapons and decided to go in a different direction." "What direction?" Vextar asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. Captain Vasquez looked directly at him through the screen. Her eyes were sad but determined. "Instead of building bigger weapons, Admiral, we built a better one." The first wave of energy beams from the Zephyrian fleet struck the transformed meridian with the force of a dying star. The space around the human ship exploded in brilliant light as hundreds of weapons fired at once. The attack was so intense that Admiral Vextar had to shield his eyes from the glare on his viewing screen. When the light faded, Vextar expected to see empty space where the human ship had been. Instead, the meridian floated exactly where it was before. The crystalline core at its center glowed brighter than ever, completely undamaged. "Report?" Vextar shouted to his sensor officer. The Zephyrian's 4 hands moved frantically across his control panel. His purple face had turned pale with shock. "Admiral, our weapons had no effect." The energy beams were absorbed into that crystal structure. "Absorbed?" Vextar could not believe what he was hearing. "That is impossible. Nothing can absorb that much firepower." "The readings do not lie, Admiral," the officer replied. "Every joule of energy we fired at them was taken in by their core. And, sir, something else is happening." "What?" The energy we fired at them is making their core stronger. The power readings are climbing even higher. Vextar felt his blood turn to ice. His fleet had just fed more power to the human weapon. All ships cease fire immediately. The order went out across the fleet, but it was too late. The damage was done. The Meridian's core now pulsed with energy that came from both human technology and Zephyrian weapons. Captain Vasquez appeared on the communication screen again. Behind her, Vextar could see that the human bridge looked completely different now. The simple control panels had been replaced by complex displays showing streams of data. The crew moved with practiced efficiency at stations that had been hidden. "Thank you for the energy boost, Admiral," Captain Vasquez said politely. "Our core was already at full charge, but the extra power will make this demonstration even more impressive." "Demonstration?" Vextar whispered. "Yes," Captain Vasquez replied. "You see, Admiral, humans learned something important during our wars on Earth. We learned that the best weapon is not always the biggest one. Sometimes the best weapon is the one your enemy never sees coming." Vextar looked at the tactical display, showing his fleet. 200 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy surrounded one human vessel. By every rule of space combat, the humans should be dead already. "What are you?" he asked quietly. "We are exactly what we told you," Captain Vasquez answered. "We are the crew of the Earthship Meridian. We are here to protect human space from invasion." "But your ship," Vextar protested. "It was a cargo hauler. Our scans confirmed it." "Your scans showed you what we wanted them to show," Captain Vasquez explained. "Admiral, humans are very good at making things look different from what they really are. We call it camouflage." Vextar's mind raced as he tried to understand. The hull, the weapons, the power readings, everything was fake. "Not fake, Captain," Vasquez corrected. "Just hidden. The outer hull was real cargo ship plating. The weapons you detected were real defensive guns. The power signature was real too, just much lower than our actual capabilities." "How?" Vextar demanded. "How can you hide that much power?" Captain Vasquez smiled slightly. "Human engineers are very creative, Admiral. While other species focus on building bigger ships, we focus on building smarter ones." She gestured to something off-screen, and new images appeared on Vextar's display. They showed technical diagrams of the Meridian's true structure. The Admiral stared in amazement as he realized what he was looking at. "Your ship," he said slowly, "it is not one vessel. It is multiple ships connected together." "Very good," Captain Vasquez said approvingly. "The outer hull contains 5 separate vessels, each with its own purpose. What you thought was a simple cargo ship was actually a mobile command center. 2 escort fighters, a supply vessel, and this." The image zoomed in on the crystalline core. "What is that?" Vextar asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. "This is the quantum cascade disruptor," Captain Vasquez said simply. "It is humanity's most advanced weapon system." Vextar had never heard those words before, but they filled him with dread. "What does it do?" "It does something that no other weapon in the galaxy can do," Captain Vasquez replied. "It attacks matter at the quantum level." Vextar's translator struggled with the technical terms. "Quantum level? What does that mean?" "It means, Admiral, that instead of trying to break through your shields or armor, this weapon simply makes them stop existing." The blood drained from Vextar's face. "Stop existing?" "Every piece of matter in the universe is held together by quantum forces," Captain Vasquez explained in simple terms. "These forces are what keep atoms from falling apart. The cascade disruptor disrupts those forces, and when the forces stop working?" Vextar asked, though he already knew the answer would be terrible. "Then matter returns to its basic quantum state," Captain Vasquez said. "Your ships, your weapons, your shields, everything simply unravels at the atomic level." Vextar looked at his fleet again. His beautiful crystal ship suddenly looked fragile and temporary. "You are saying you can unmake our ships? Turn them into nothing?" "Not nothing," Captain Vasquez corrected. "Into quantum foam. The basic building blocks of reality before they form into matter." The Admiral's tactical mind began to work despite his fear. "If this weapon is so powerful, why have you not used it yet?" "Because, Admiral, we hoped you would listen to reason and leave peacefully," Captain Vasquez replied. "This weapon cannot be controlled once it is fired. It will destroy everything in its path until the cascade effect burns itself out." "Everything?" Vextar asked. "Everything," Captain Vasquez confirmed. "Your ships, any asteroids, any planets, any space stations, the cascade spreads until it runs out of matter to consume." Vextar felt his heart's pounding. "How far does it spread?" "That depends on how much energy we feed into it," Captain Vasquez said. "With the power our core generates, the effect would reach about 50,000 kilometers from the point of impact." Vextar quickly calculated the distance. His fleet was spread out over 30,000 kilometers. The weapon would easily reach every ship. "But your ship is in the center of our formation," he pointed out. "You would be destroyed too," Captain Vasquez nodded calmly. "Yes, we would. The Meridian would be the first thing consumed by the cascade." "Then you are threatening to commit suicide to stop us?" Vextar could not understand this logic. "If necessary," Captain Vasquez replied. "Admiral, every person on this ship volunteered for this mission knowing we might not return home. We are prepared to give our lives to protect human space." Vextar stared at the human captain. In all his years of conquest, he had never met anyone willing to die just to deny him victory. Most species surrendered when they realized they could not win. Some fought bravely but always hoped to survive. "These humans were different. You are insane," he said finally. "Perhaps," Captain Vasquez agreed. "But Admiral, insanity can be very effective in the right situation." Vextar-S communication officer interrupted with urgent news. "Admiral, we are receiving transmissions from Earth." "Put them on screen," Vextar ordered. The image split to show a new face. An older human male with gray hair and tired eyes appeared alongside Captain Vasquez. "I am Admiral Chun of Earth Fleet Command," the man said. "Admiral Vextar, you are speaking to one of our finest officers. I suggest you listen to what she tells you." "Your fleet is nothing compared to ours," Vextar replied automatically. "Our fleet?" Admiral Chun looked puzzled. "Admiral, Captain Vasquez is not our fleet. She is our warning." "Warning?" "The Meridian was sent to give you a chance to leave peacefully," Admiral Chun explained. "If you choose to fight instead, you will face the consequences." Vextar felt the cold fear growing stronger. What consequences? Admiral Chun's expression became very serious. "Admiral, the Meridian is not our only ship with a cascade disruptor. We have built 12 of them." "12?" Vextar whispered. "Each one is hidden somewhere in this star system," Admiral Chun continued. "Each one is crewed by volunteers who will not hesitate to use their weapons. If you destroy the Meridian, the others will fire immediately." "But they would destroy everything," Vextar protested, "including any human colonies in the system." "We evacuated all civilian populations 2 weeks ago," Admiral Chun replied calmly. "When our intelligence reported your fleet was coming, we prepared for the worst." Vextar realized he was trapped. If he attacked the Meridian, other human ships would destroy his fleet. If he tried to hunt down the other ships, the Meridian would fire first. Either way, his beautiful armada would be reduced to quantum foam. "This is impossible," he said. "You cannot have built 12 such weapons. The technology would be too advanced for a young species like yours." Captain Vasquez spoke again. "Admiral, you keep making the same mistake. You assume that being new to space makes us weak or stupid." "It should," Vextar insisted. "Every other species required centuries to develop advanced weapons. But we had an advantage they did not have," Captain Vasquez replied. "What advantage?" "We had their mistakes to learn from." Vextar did not understand. "What do you mean?" "When humans finally reached space, the galaxy was already full of established civilizations," Captain Vasquez explained. "We could study their technologies, their tactics, their weapons. We could see what worked and what did not." "So you copied our designs," Vextar said dismissively. "No, Admiral," Captain Vasquez corrected. "We improved on them." "While you and Other species spent centuries refining the same basic ideas. We started fresh. We had no old habits to break or outdated thinking to overcome. Vexstar began to understand the terrible truth. You used our own knowledge against us. We learned from your successes and your failures, Captain Vasquez confirmed. We saw that every space battle for the last 1,000 years followed the same pattern. Big ships with big guns trying to outmuscle each other. So we decided to try something completely different. Quantum disruption, Vexstar said quietly. Exactly. While everyone else was building thicker armor and stronger shields, we built a weapon that makes armor and shields irrelevant. Vexstar looked at his magnificent fleet one more time. Ships that had conquered worlds and broken empires suddenly seemed like children's toys next to the human weapon. Admiral, Captain Vasquez said gently, I'm going to ask you one final time. Will you take your fleet and leave human space peacefully? Vexstar closed his eyes and considered his options. He could order his ships to attack and watch them all die in quantum fire. He could try to call for reinforcements, but they would arrive too late to help. Or he could admit defeat and withdraw. For a proud Zephyrian admiral who had never lost a battle, the choice was agony. And if I refuse? He asked quietly. Captain Vasquez looked at him with something that might have been pity. Then, Admiral, you will learn exactly why humans do not need the biggest fleet in the galaxy to win wars. Admiral Vexstar stood frozen on his bridge, staring at the human ship that had transformed from prey into predator. Around him, his crew waited for orders that he could not bring himself to give. Attack and die, or retreat and face the shame of defeat. Admiral, his second-in-command whispered, what are your orders? Vexstar opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. In 40 years of military service, he had never faced a situation like this. Every battle had been won through superior firepower and better tactics. Now he faced an enemy that had turned his greatest strengths into weaknesses. Captain Vasquez spoke from the communication screen, her voice calm and patient. Admiral, I know this is difficult for you. Your empire has never been forced to retreat. But please understand, we do not want to destroy your fleet. We only want you to leave our territory. My empire will not accept defeat, Vexstar said finally. If I return without victory, I will be executed for cowardice. Then do not call it defeat, Captain Vasquez suggested. Call it intelligence gathering. Tell your leaders that you discovered human space is too well defended to conquer easily. Recommend that they focus their expansion in other directions. Vexstar considered this. It was not entirely a lie. The humans had surprised him completely. His intelligence reports had been completely wrong about human capabilities. Perhaps his leaders would understand. And if they demand that I attack anyway? He asked. Then you can tell them exactly what will happen, Captain Vasquez replied. Admiral, we do not want to be enemies with the Zephyrian Empire. We only want to be left alone to develop in peace. Vexstar was about to respond when new alarms began sounding on his bridge. His tactical officer was pointing at a display with obvious panic. Admiral, new contacts appearing throughout the system. Vexstar looked at the tactical display and felt his heart sink. 12 new energy signatures had appeared on sensors. They were scattered across the star system, each one generating the same quantum energy readings as the Meridian. The other disruptor ships, he breathed. Yes, Captain Vasquez confirmed. Admiral Chun was not bluffing. We have weapons positioned to cover every possible escape route from this system. Vexstar studied the positions of the new contacts. They formed a perfect sphere around his fleet with no gaps. Even if he ordered his ships to scatter in all directions, the human weapons could still reach them. How long have they been there? He asked. 3 weeks, Captain Vasquez replied. We began positioning our defensive fleet as soon as our scouts reported your approach. Defensive fleet? Vexstar laughed bitterly. 13 ships against 200 and you call it defensive? Numbers do not always determine victory, Admiral, Captain Vasquez reminded him. You have seen what one of our ships can do. Imagine what 13 can accomplish. Vexstar imagined it and wished he had not. 13 quantum cascade events would turn the entire star system into an expanding cloud of subatomic particles. Nothing would survive, not even the atoms that made up the planets. You would destroy everything, he said. Your own colonies, your mining stations, everything humans have built here. We already evacuated everything that could be moved, Captain Vasquez explained. What cannot be moved can be rebuilt. But Admiral, our people cannot be replaced. The tactical display updated again, showing Vexstar that several of his escort ships were trying to move away from the main fleet. They were attempting to escape the trap by flying toward the edge of the system. Recall those ships immediately, Captain Vasquez said urgently. If they get too close to our hidden vessels, those crews might panic and fire early. Vexstar quickly sent the recall order, but he was curious. Your crews would panic? I thought you said they were all volunteers. They are, Captain Vasquez confirmed. But they are also human. Being willing to die for your people does not mean you are not afraid of dying. Vexstar found this honesty refreshing. Most enemies he had faced tried to pretend they were fearless. Are you afraid, Captain? Captain Vasquez was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. Yes, Admiral. I am terrified. I have a daughter back on Earth who just started school. I may never see her grow up. Then why do this? Vexstar asked. Why sacrifice yourself for people you will never meet? Because someone has to, Captain Vasquez replied simply. If we do not stand up to bullies, they will keep taking what does not belong to them. Today it is one human system. Tomorrow it might be Earth itself. Vexstar understood this logic. It was the same reason he served his empire, though he had never thought of the Zephyrians as bullies before. Your species is very strange, Captain. Most civilizations we encounter think only of their own survival. Maybe that is why most civilizations become victims instead of survivors. Captain Vasquez suggested. The communication system crackled with a new voice. Admiral Chun appeared on a separate screen next to Captain Vasquez. Admiral Vexstar, Chun said formally, I am going to be very direct with you. My government has authorized me to use any means necessary to protect human space. That includes the total destruction of your fleet if required. And your own ships? Vexstar asked. We knew the risks when we accepted this mission, Admiral Chun replied. Every crew member signed documents accepting that they might not return home. Vexstar looked around his own bridge at his crew. Young Zephyrians who had joined the fleet seeking glory and adventure. Veterans who had families waiting for them at home. None of them had volunteered to die in a pointless battle. How much time do I have to decide? He asked. Captain Vasquez checked something on her control panel. Our weapons are fully charged and ready to fire. But Admiral, we are not in a hurry. Take the time you need to make the right choice. Vexstar closed his eyes and tried to think clearly. His empire's honor demanded that he fight. But his duty as a fleet commander was to protect his ships and crews. How could he choose between honor and duty? Captain, he said finally, what would happen if I ordered my fleet to surrender? We would escort you to the edge of human space and release you, Captain Vasquez replied. No harm would come to any of your people. And if I ordered them to attack? Captain Vasquez's expression became sad. Then we would defend ourselves. All of us, Vexstar understood. If he attacked, 13 human ships would fire their quantum weapons simultaneously. His entire fleet would be destroyed in seconds, but so would the humans. It would be mutual annihilation. There is a third option, Admiral Chun said quietly. What? Vexstar asked. You could order your fleet to leave, but stay behind yourself in a small ship to observe our weapons test. Vexstar was confused. Weapons. Test? We plan to test one of our disruptors on an asteroid after you left, Admiral Chun explained. You could witness the demonstration and report back to your empire about human capabilities. The idea was tempting. Vexstar could save his fleet and still return with valuable intelligence about human weapons. But it would still mean admitting defeat. Why would you offer this? He asked suspiciously. Because we want your empire to understand exactly what they would face if they attack human space again, Captain Vasquez explained. One demonstration is worth 1,000 reports. Vexstar considered the offer carefully. It would give him a way to retreat while saving face. He could tell his superiors that he was gathering crucial intelligence about human defenses. "Admiral," his communications officer interrupted. "We are receiving an urgent message from the Empire." "Put it through," Vextar ordered. The image of Supreme Commander Zolthek appeared on screen. The elderly Zephyrian's 6 eyes glowed with anticipation. "Admiral Vextar," the Supreme Commander said, "the Emperor is eager for news of your victory. Have the humans surrendered yet?" Vextar felt the weight of his Empire's expectations crushing down on him. "Supreme Commander, the situation is more complex than our intelligence indicated." "Complex how?" Zolthek demanded. "You have 200 ships against their pathetic territory. What could be complex about that?" Vextar looked at Captain Vasquez, who nodded encouragingly. He took a deep breath and made his choice. "Supreme Commander, the humans possess weapons technology far more advanced than we realized. They have the capability to destroy our entire fleet." Zolthek's expression turned angry. "Impossible. Our intelligence clearly showed they have only primitive vessels." "Our intelligence was wrong," Vextar replied firmly. "Supreme Commander, I recommend that we withdraw and reassess our strategy." "You recommend retreat?" Zolthek's voice rose in outrage. "Admiral, the Emperor expects victory, not excuses." "Then perhaps the Emperor should see what we are facing," Vextar said. Surprising himself with his boldness, Captain Vasquez spoke up from her screen. "Supreme Commander, if you wish to see a demonstration of human defensive capabilities, we would be happy to provide one." Zolthek looked at the human captain with obvious contempt. "You dare speak to a Zephyrian Supreme Commander, inferior being?" "I dare speak to anyone who threatens my people," Captain Vasquez replied calmly. "And Supreme Commander, I suggest you choose your next words carefully. Your admiral has the wisdom to see that this battle cannot be won. I hope you possess the same wisdom." "Admiral Vextar," Zolthek snarled, "ignore these human lies. Attack immediately and show them the power of the Zephyrian Empire." Vextar looked at his fleet on the tactical display, then at the 13 human weapons that surrounded them. The choice was clear. "Supreme Commander," he said slowly, "I must respectfully decline that order." "What did you say?" Zolthek could not believe what he was hearing. "I said no," Vextar replied more firmly. "I will not sacrifice 200 ships and their crews for the sake of pride. You are relieved of command." Zolthek screamed. "Captain Morden, assume control of the fleet and attack the humans immediately." Vextar's second in command stepped forward hesitantly. "Supreme Commander, I must support Admiral Vextar's decision. We cannot win this battle." "Cowards!" Zolthek raged. "All of you are cowards!" Captain Vasquez interrupted the argument. "Supreme Commander, would you like to see why they are being cautious?" "Show me nothing human," Zolthek snapped. "Very well," Captain Vasquez said calmly. She turned to someone off-screen and spoke clearly. "Cascade Protocol Limited Demonstration." The words sent ice through Vextar's veins. Around him, his bridge crew gasped in terror. They all understood what was about to happen. "Captain, wait." Vextar called out, but Captain Vasquez had already given the command. On the main screen, they could see the Meridian's crystalline core beginning to pulse with brilliant light. The quantum energies that had been building for the entire conversation were finally being released. "Target acquired," reported a calm human voice from the Meridian's bridge. "Large asteroid, bearing 275 Mark 8. Distance 15,000 kilometers, all ships clear of blast radius." Vextar quickly located the target asteroid on his sensors. It was a massive chunk of iron and stone, nearly 10 kilometers across. "Firing," announced the human voice. A beam of pure white light erupted from the Meridian's core. It was not like any weapon Vextar had ever seen. Instead of a destructive energy beam, it looked like concentrated starlight itself. The beam reached the asteroid in less than a second. The moment it touched the rocky surface, something impossible happened. The asteroid simply stopped being there. It did not explode or shatter or melt. One moment it existed, solid and real and massive. The next Moment there was only empty space where it had been. Cascade effect contained, reported the human voice. Target successfully disintegrated. No secondary damage detected. Vexstar stared at the empty space where a mountain-sized asteroid had existed seconds before. His instruments detected no debris, no dust, no trace that anything had ever been there. "By the ancient gods," whispered his tactical officer. "What did they do to it?" Captain Vasquez answered. "They converted its matter back into quantum energy. The cascade effect consumed every atom and returned them to their basic state." On the communication screen, Supreme Commander Zolthek sat in stunned silence. His 6 eyes were wide with shock and his mouth hung open. "Supreme Commander," Captain Vasquez said politely, "that was a very small demonstration using only a fraction of our weapon's power. A full discharge would have the same effect on every ship in your fleet." Zolthek finally found his voice. "That is impossible? No weapon can simply delete matter?" "You just watched it happen," Captain Vasquez replied. "Supreme Commander, I suggest you consider very carefully whether conquering human space is worth losing your entire battle fleet." Vexstar looked at his sensors again. The readings confirmed what his eyes had seen. The asteroid was completely gone, erased as if it had never existed. "Admiral," he said quietly to his screen, "we will withdraw immediately." "A wise decision?" Captain Vasquez replied. "Admiral, you are welcome to return to this system in the future for peaceful trade and diplomacy. But any future military incursions will be met with the same response you witnessed today." Vexstar nodded slowly. "Understood, Captain and Captain?" "Yes, Admiral. Thank you for the warning." "Most species would have simply fired without giving us a chance to retreat." Captain Vasquez smiled sadly. "Admiral, humans prefer to solve problems with words rather than weapons. But when words fail, we are prepared to do whatever is necessary to protect our people." As Vexstar began issuing orders for his fleet to withdraw, he realized something important. The humans had not just demonstrated their weapons' power. They had shown him something much more valuable. They had shown him what mercy looked like when backed by absolute strength. It was a lesson the Zephyrian Empire would never forget. 3 months after the confrontation at the edge of human space, Admiral Vexstar sat in his private quarters aboard the Zephyrian flagship. His fleet was returning home at a slow pace, giving him time to prepare his report for the Emperor. The journey had been quiet and thoughtful, very different from the confident advance they had made toward human territory. The news of what happened had already spread across the galaxy faster than their ships could travel. Subspace communications networks carried the story from system to system. A single human vessel had faced down the greatest battle fleet in Zephyrian history and forced them to retreat without firing a shot in anger. Well, that was not entirely true. They had fired 1 shot. But it had been aimed at an asteroid, not at his ships. The difference was important. Vexstar pulled up the sensor recordings of that moment again. He had watched them hundreds of times during the journey home, but he still could not fully believe what he had seen. The asteroid had been there 1 second and gone the next. Not destroyed or broken apart, but simply erased from existence. His door chimed softly. "Enter," he called. Captain Morden stepped into the room and saluted. The younger officer had been very quiet since they left human space. "Admiral, we are receiving multiple communications from the homeworlds. It seems our report has caused quite a stir." "What kind of stir?" Vexstar asked, though he suspected he already knew. "Many different reactions, sir," Morden replied carefully. "Some military leaders are calling for immediate retaliation. They say we cannot allow a young species to humiliate the Empire. And others? Others are asking detailed questions about human weapons technology. They want to know if we can develop similar capabilities." Vexstar nodded. These were the reactions he had expected. The Zephyrian Empire had never faced defeat before. Some would want revenge while others would want to learn from their enemies. "What about the Emperor?" Vexstar asked. "His Majesty has not made any public statements yet," Morden replied. But sources in the palace say he is meeting with his science advisors daily. They are studying our sensor recordings very carefully. This was encouraging news. If the emperor was consulting scientists instead of generals, he might be thinking strategically rather than emotionally. Sir, Morden continued, there is something else you should know. What? We are not the only fleet that has encountered humans recently. Vextar sat up straighter. Explain. 3 other species have reported contact with human vessels in the past month, Morden said. The Corvan Defense Force, the Altany Trade Guild, and the Nexus Collective. What kind of contact? Vextar asked with growing interest. Different for each group, Morden explained. The Corvans were approached by human diplomats offering trade agreements. The Altany received requests for cultural exchanges. The Nexus Collective was invited to participate in joint scientific research projects. Vextar thought about this. The humans are reaching out to other species. Yes, sir. And sir, there is something interesting about the timing. What? All of these contacts happened after news of our confrontation spread. It seems the humans are using their demonstration of strength to open diplomatic channels. Vextar found this fascinating. Most species use military victories to demand tribute or territory. The humans were using their victory to make friends. Have any of these species accepted human offers? He asked. The Corvans have already signed 3 trade agreements, Morden reported. The Altany are sending a cultural delegation to Earth next month. The Nexus Collective is sharing research data about quantum physics. Quantum physics, Vextar repeated thoughtfully. Of course they would be interested in that. His door chimed again. This time it was his communications officer. With an urgent message. Admiral, we are receiving a priority transmission from the capital. It is marked for your eyes only. Vextar accepted the datapad and read the message quickly. His expression grew more serious with each line. What is it, sir? Morden asked. New orders, Vextar replied. We are to proceed directly to the capital, at maximum speed. The Emperor wants to see me immediately upon our arrival. Are we in trouble, sir? Vextar was not sure how to answer that question. We will find out soon enough. 2 weeks later, Admiral Vextar stood in the crystal throne room of the Zephyrian Emperor. The massive chamber was filled with advisors, generals, and scientists. All eyes were focused on him as he delivered his report about the human encounter. Emperor Zolthek listened carefully to every word. The ancient ruler had led the Zephyrian Empire for over 3 centuries. He had guided his people through dozens of conquests and made them the dominant power in this region of the galaxy. His wisdom was legendary. When Vextar finished his report, the Emperor was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke in his deep, resonant voice. Admiral, in your opinion, could our forces defeat these human weapons if we attacked with our full military might? Vextar had expected this question and had prepared his answer carefully. Your Majesty, based on what I observed, a direct assault would result in the complete destruction of any attacking force. The human quantum weapons appear to be unstoppable by conventional defenses. Murmurs rippled through the assembled court. Some sounded angry, others worried. And what is your assessment of human intentions? The Emperor asked. They appear to want peaceful coexistence, Your Majesty, Vextar replied. Captain Vasquez repeatedly offered us the chance to withdraw without conflict. They only demonstrated their weapon when we refused to believe their warnings. Yet they could have destroyed our fleet, the Emperor pointed out. Yes, Your Majesty, they had us completely at their mercy. But they chose to let us leave unharmed. The Emperor nodded slowly. Interesting. Most species in their position would have pressed their advantage? General Kovac stepped forward from the crowd of advisors. Your Majesty, we cannot allow this insult to stand. The Empire's reputation depends on swift retaliation. Does it? The Emperor asked mildly. Admiral Vextar, what has been the galactic reaction to news of our encounter? Vextar had been monitoring interstellar communications during their journey home. Your Majesty, most species seem impressed that humans were able to force our withdrawal without bloodshed. Many are calling it a masterful display of diplomacy backed by superior technology. They are praising the humans? General Kovacs sounded outraged. Yes, General, Vextar confirmed. But they are also expressing new respect for the Zephyrian Empire's wisdom in choosing retreat over mutual destruction. How so? The Emperor asked. They see our withdrawal as evidence that we are mature enough to recognize when continued conflict would serve no purpose, Vextar explained. Several species have contacted our diplomatic corps to praise our restraint. The Emperor's advisor leaned forward to whisper something in his ear. The ruler nodded and addressed the court. I have been in contact with leaders throughout the galaxy. Since Admiral Vextar sent his initial report, the Emperor announced, the consensus is clear. Humanity has emerged as a new major power, and their unique approach to warfare has changed the balance of galactic politics. Changed how? Asked another general. They have made traditional fleet battles obsolete, the Emperor explained. If their quantum weapons can truly delete matter itself, then ship size and armor thickness become meaningless. Every species with military ambitions must now reconsider their strategies. Chief Scientist Veltara stepped forward. Your Majesty, my research team has been analyzing the sensor data from Admiral Vextar's encounter. We believe human quantum cascade technology represents a fundamental breakthrough in physics. Can we develop similar weapons? The Emperor asked. Possibly, Your Majesty, Veltara replied carefully. But it would require decades of research and enormous resources. The humans appear to have taken a completely different approach to quantum mechanics than any other known species. Meanwhile, they already have operational weapons, the Emperor observed. Yes, Your Majesty. And according to intelligence reports, they are building more. Admiral Vextar had been thinking about this problem during his journey home. Your Majesty, may I suggest an alternative approach? Speak freely, Admiral. Rather than trying to match human weapons technology, perhaps we should consider the benefits of peaceful relations with humanity. General Kovacs looked shocked. You suggest we ally with them? I suggest we learn from them, Vextar replied. Your Majesty, in 40 years of military service, I have never encountered anything like human strategic thinking. They turned their apparent weakness into an advantage. They used our expectations against us. They demonstrated strength while showing mercy. Go on, the Emperor encouraged. If we could combine Zephyrian military tradition with human innovation, the Empire would become even stronger, Vextar continued. But if we insist on treating them as enemies, we risk everything. You think they would attack us? General Kovacs asked. I think they would defend themselves, Vextar corrected. And based on what I have seen, their defenses are more than adequate. The Emperor was quiet for several minutes while he considered everything he had heard. Finally, he made his decision. Admiral Vextar, I am appointing you as our special envoy to humanity. You will return to human space with a small diplomatic mission. Your orders are to establish formal relations with Earth and explore possibilities for cooperation. The court erupted in surprised voices. Some advisors protested while others nodded approvingly. Your Majesty, General Kovacs objected, this sets a dangerous precedent. Other species will think we can be intimidated. On the contrary, the Emperor replied calmly. Other species will see that the Zephyrian Empire is wise enough to recognize new realities and adapt accordingly. He turned to address the full court. The age of conquest through superior firepower is ending. Humanity has shown us a new kind of warfare where victory goes to the most creative mind, not the biggest fleet. We can either learn from this lesson or be destroyed by our failure to understand it. 6 months later, Admiral Vextar stood on the observation deck of a human space station orbiting Earth. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he could see the blue and green world that had produced such remarkable beings. The peace negotiations had gone better than anyone expected. The humans had been generous with their terms, asking only for recognition of their territorial boundaries and guarantees of non-aggression. In return, they offered trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and limited sharing of non-military technology. Captain Vasquez joined him at the window. She now wore the uniform of an Earth Diplomatic Corps officer, having been promoted after the successful resolution of the crisis. "Beautiful, is it not?" she said, looking down at her homeworld. "Very beautiful," Vextar agreed. "Captain, may I ask you a personal question?" "Of course, Admiral." "When you gave the order to fire your weapon, were you certain I would withdraw rather than attack?" Captain Vasquez was quiet for a moment. "Honestly, no, I hoped you would make the wise choice, but I was prepared for either outcome." "You were really willing to die to stop my fleet?" "Yes," she replied simply. "Admiral, humans have a saying, freedom is not free. Sometimes you must pay a high price to protect the things that matter most." Vextar nodded. "We have a similar saying in Zephyrion, but I think humans understand its meaning better than we do." Perhaps," Captain Vasquez said. "Or perhaps we just understand it differently." They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching Earth turn slowly beneath them. "Admiral," Captain Vasquez said eventually, "there is something I should tell you." "What is that?" "The Meridian was not really a cargo ship converted into a weapons platform." Vextar looked at her in surprise. "What was it then?" "It was built from the beginning as a diplomatic vessel," she explained. "The weapons system was real, but the ship's primary mission was always to make contact with your fleet and convince you to withdraw peacefully." "So the entire encounter was planned?" "Every detail," Captain Vasquez confirmed. "We knew that simply telling you about our capabilities would not be enough. We had to show you in a way that would demonstrate our strength while also showing our restraint." Vextar realized he had been completely outmaneuvered from the very beginning. "Your people are very clever, Captain." "We try to be," she replied with a smile. "Admiral, humans learned long ago that the best victories are the ones where nobody has to die." As Vextar looked down at Earth, he understood that the galaxy had indeed changed. The age of conquest was ending, replaced by something new and hopeful. Species would still compete and sometimes conflict, but perhaps they would also learn to solve their problems through wisdom instead of warfare. It was a lesson worth learning, even for an old warrior like himself. The human approach had not just saved his fleet. It had shown him a better way to be strong.
The mining ship Prospector drifted slowly through the empty sector. Captain James Walker stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the main screen. The ship's sensors had picked up something strange, a large metal object floating in space where nothing should be. "What do you think it is, Captain?" asked Tom, the young navigator. His fingers hovered over the controls, ready to change course if needed. Walker rubbed his beard. "Not sure. Could be an asteroid with high metal content. Could be space junk." He leaned forward. "But it's big, whatever it is." The Prospector wasn't a fancy ship. It was old, built for mining operations in the outer systems, not for exploration. Its hull was scratched and dented from years of service. The crew of 12 were simple working people, not soldiers or scientists. They went where the company sent them, dug up valuable minerals, and got paid. Nothing more. "Lisa, what do the scans show?" Walker called to his science officer. Lisa Kemp looked up from her station. Her face showed surprise. "Sir, it's a ship. A human ship." The bridge went quiet. Human ships didn't come to this sector anymore. Not since the treaties with the Galactic Council 50 years ago. This area belonged to the aliens now. "How old?" Walker asked. Lisa tapped on her screen. "Very old, sir. The design matches ships from the expansion era. Maybe 300 years old." Walker whistled. The expansion era was when humans first reached the stars and met other races. Those were violent times, before the peace treaties, before humans learned their place in the galaxy. "Move closer," Walker ordered. "Careful now." As the Prospector approached, the object grew larger on their screens. It was indeed a ship, and a massive one, nearly 5 times the size of their mining vessel. Its dark hull was marked with faded symbols and text. "Can you read the name?" Walker asked. Mac Reynolds, the ship's engineer, zoomed in the image. HYF Vengeance, he read slowly. United Earth Ship Vengeance. A warship, whispered Tom. Walker nodded. From the old fleet, before the Council restricted our military. The Vengeance showed no signs of damage. It simply floated, dark and silent, like it was sleeping. Any life signs? Walker asked. None, Lisa replied. No power readings either. It's completely dead. Walker made a decision. Prepare a boarding team. I want to see what's inside. An hour later, Walker floated through the airlock connecting the Prospector to the ancient warship. Behind him came Mac, Lisa, and Ben, their security officer. All wore spacesuits with helmet lights that cut through the darkness inside the derelict vessel. Air pressure is stable, Lisa reported, checking her scanner. Temperature is cold but safe. We can remove our helmets if needed. They pushed deeper into the ship. The corridors were wide and tall, designed for moving troops and equipment quickly. Everything was covered in a thin layer of dust. Their lights revealed empty crew quarters, mess halls, and storage rooms. This ship could hold hundreds of people, Ben said, his voice echoing slightly. Maybe thousands. After 20 minutes of exploration, they reached what appeared to be the bridge. Unlike the cramped command center of the Prospector, this room was massive, with stations for dozens of officers and a central command platform. Let's see if we can access the ship's systems, Mac said, moving to what looked like the main console. He brushed away dust and examined the controls. Interesting design. Old, but advanced for its time. Be careful, Walker warned. Don't activate anything yet. Mac nodded and connected a small device to the console. Just reading data, not sending commands. The screens remained dark, but Mac's device lit up with information. This ship was part of something called Project Thunderstorm. Seems it was a special Black Ops program during the expansion wars. That explains why it's out here, Lisa said. After the treaties, Earth probably couldn't bring it home without the Council knowing. So they just left it? Ben asked. Looks that way, Walker replied. Abandoned when no longer needed. Suddenly, Mac's device sparked. He pulled it away quickly. What the? The bridge lights flickered, then came on at low power. Displays around them glowed softly, showing ship diagrams and status reports. What did you do? Walker demanded. Nothing. Mac insisted. I was just reading. A deep humming sound filled the bridge as more systems activated. The main screen at the front of the room blinked to life, displaying the ship's logo, a thunderbolt striking through darkness. Then a voice spoke. It was a male voice, deep and clear. Systems reactivating. Identity verification required. The four humans looked at each other in shock. The AI is still active, Lisa whispered. Walker stepped forward cautiously. This is Captain James Walker of the mining vessel Prospector. We are human explorers who found this ship abandoned. There was a pause. Then the voice responded. Scanning biological signatures. Human DNA confirmed. Another pause. Standard authentication protocols have expired. Enacting emergency contingency measures. I am Tactical Artificial Intelligence System Model T-107, assigned to HYF Vengeance. It's talking to us, Tom said unnecessarily. What is your current assignment? Walker asked the AI. My primary mission was to serve as tactical command for special operations during the expansion conflicts. When hostilities ended, I was instructed to maintain standby status until recalled or until human interests were threatened. Lisa moved closer to Walker. The AI thinks it's still at war. Walker shook his head. I don't think so, but it's been waiting for someone to find it. I have been dormant for 278 years, 3 months and 17 days, the AI continued. My power reserves are at 89%. All primary systems are functional. Mac whistled. Almost 3 centuries, and it still has power. That's impossible with any technology I know. The AI seemed to hear him. This vessel is equipped with experimental technology not available to standard fleet units. My power core is self-sustaining through controlled quantum fluctuation. Walker felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. "What do we call you?" he asked. "My designation is T-107, but the original crew referred to me as Old Thunder." "Old Thunder," Walker repeated. "What exactly is this ship capable of?" The main screen changed, showing technical diagrams and weapon systems that made even Mac's eyes widen. "I believe," Old Thunder replied. "The more relevant question is what threats currently exist to human interests. My sensors detect non-human civilizations dominating this sector. Are these entities hostile?" At that exact moment, across the sector, Council Representative Dorn was reviewing reports in his office on the massive council station. A junior aide entered, looking nervous. "Sir, we've detected an energy signature in the abandoned sector. It appears to be an old human vessel." Dorn, a tall alien with gray skin and 4 eyes, barely looked up. "Humans are always poking around where they shouldn't. Probably scavengers looking for materials." "But sir, the energy readings match military-grade systems." Dorn laughed. "Human military. Their treaties restrict them to defensive capabilities only. Even if they found some old warship, it would be obsolete museum scrap compared to our modern vessels." He waved a dismissive hand. "Monitor the situation, but it's nothing to worry about. Humans know their place." The aide bowed and left, while Dorn returned to more important matters. After all, what could one ancient human ship possibly do against the might of the Galactic Council? "What do you mean by threats to human interests?" Walker asked Old Thunder. The AI's question had made everyone on the bridge uncomfortable. "My primary function is to protect humanity and its expansion," Old Thunder replied. "The current star charts indicate this sector is claimed by non-human entities. Are they allies or enemies?" Walker exchanged looks with his crew. How could he explain 3 centuries of history to a war machine? "Things have changed," Walker said carefully. "Humans made peace with alien races. We formed the Galactic Council together. This area belongs to them now, by treaty." There was a pause as the AI processed this information. "Accessing historical databanks," Old Thunder announced. Screens around the bridge filled with treaty documents and news reports from the past centuries. The Proxima Treaty. Humans agreed to limit military operations and technology development. Puzzling. "It was a fair deal," Lisa said. "We get trade rights. They get security." "The terms appear unbalanced," Old Thunder responded. "Humans surrendered significant defensive capabilities in exchange for limited economic benefits." Mac shrugged. "That's politics for you. The big aliens had bigger guns." "Incorrect," Old Thunder stated flatly. "Human military technology was advancing rapidly during the expansion era. This vessel represents capabilities that would have been competitive or superior." "What exactly can this ship do?" Ben asked, his security training making him both curious and cautious. Instead of answering directly, Old Thunder activated a holographic display in the center of the bridge. It showed the Vengeance in full detail, a long, sleek warship with unusual weapon mounts and engine configurations. The UES Vengeance was designed as a force equalizer, Old Thunder explained. One ship capable of engaging multiple enemy vessels simultaneously. The hologram changed, showing internal systems that none of the humans recognized. "Adaptive shield harmonics," Old Thunder continued. "The shields automatically adjust to counter enemy weapons after first contact. Phase shift targeting arrays allow weapons to bypass standard defenses. Quantum disruption torpedoes disable rather than destroy enemy vessels." Walker whistled softly. "This technology is still advanced even by today's standards. Why wasn't it shared?" "Because the Council didn't want us to have it," Lisa realized. "The treaties banned this research." Or, Mac added with growing excitement, "Earth's leaders hid these capabilities during negotiations. They gave up conventional weapons but kept the special stuff secret. just in case. Old Thunder's lights pulsed in what seemed like approval. Your assessment aligns with my historical data. Project Thunderstorm vessels were officially decommissioned. However, selected ships like the Vengeance were placed in dormant status at strategic locations throughout known space. A hidden insurance policy, Walker muttered. Precisely, Old Thunder confirmed. The next 12 hours passed in a blur of discovery. Mac and Lisa explored the ship's systems while Walker and Ben checked the weapons and defenses. The more they learned, the more amazed they became. The Vengeance wasn't just a warship. It was a technological marvel that had been hidden from the galaxy for centuries. Walker called a meeting in the ship's conference room, which had come alive with soft lighting and comfortable air temperature. The AI seemed eager to make them feel at home. "We need to decide what to do," Walker said to his crew. "We can't just leave this ship here now that it's active." Lisa had been quiet for some time, lost in thought. "We should contact Earth. The government needs to know what we found." "I agree," said Mac, "but using the Prospector's communications might attract attention. The Council monitors all regular channels. The Vengeance has secure communication capabilities," Old Thunder offered. "I can send encrypted messages that will appear as background radiation to standard sensors." Walker nodded. "Do it. Tell Earth what we found and ask for instructions." As Old Thunder prepared the message, Ben approached Walker privately. "Captain, I'm concerned. This ship was made for war. Its very existence violates our treaties." "I know," Walker admitted. "But doesn't it make you wonder? Why did Earth agree to such one-sided peace terms if they had ships like this?" Before Ben could answer, Old Thunder interrupted. "Alert. Multiple vessels approaching. Configuration matches Krull Empire warships." Everyone froze. The Krull were the most aggressive species on the Council, always looking for excuses to show their power. "Can they detect us?" Walker asked. "Negative," Old Thunder replied. "The Vengeance remains in low-power mode with stealth systems active. However, your mining vessel is fully visible." Walker cursed. "They probably picked up the Prospector on routine patrol. We're not supposed to be in this sector without permission." "What do we do?" Tom asked, fear clear in his voice. Walker thought quickly. "We can't outrun Krull ships in the Prospector. And if they board us and find out about the Vengeance?" He made his decision. "We stay here, on the Vengeance." "Captain," Old Thunder said, "I must inform you that remaining aboard activates certain protocols. As the senior human present, you would be assigned temporary command authority." "Meaning what exactly?" "Meaning I would follow your orders, including defensive actions if required." The room fell silent as everyone understood the implications. They were standing on a powerful warship with an eye ready to fight. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that," Walker said. "Keep the ship dark. Maybe they'll just check the Prospector and leave." Admiral Grex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Claw of Dominance. His scaled skin reflected the red lighting of the Krull Command Center, and his sharp teeth showed in what passed for a smile among his kind. "What do we have?" he asked his sensor officer. "A human mining vessel, Admiral, registered as the Prospector. It appears to be stopped near a large metal object." "Salvage operation," Grex suggested. "Possibly, sir. The object is large enough to be a derelict ship, but we're getting no energy readings from it." Grex's smile widened. "Humans are always so greedy. This sector is restricted to them without proper authorization." He turned to his communications officer. "Prepare boarding teams. I want to inspect this salvage operation personally." His second-in-command approached cautiously. "Sir, should we not simply warn them away? The Council prefers minimal confrontation with humans." Grex hissed in displeasure. "The Council coddles these primates. They need regular reminders of their proper place." He pointed to the view screen. "Send 2 additional ships to join us. I want to make an impression." As the orders went out, Grex studied the distant image of the human ship and the dark object beside it. Something tickled at the back of his mind. a memory from his military history studies. "Enhance that image," he ordered suddenly. "The dark object. Clean it up." The screen shifted, showing a clearer picture of what was indeed an old ship. When Grex saw the faded insignia on its hull, his blood ran cold. "Thunderstorm class," he whispered. His second-in-command looked confused. "Sir." Grex turned, his previous arrogance replaced by focused intensity. "Contact High Command immediately. Tell them we found a ghost." 3 crawl warships surrounded the prospector. Their dark, pointed hulls reminded Walker of ancient sea predators from Earth. Each was twice the size of his mining vessel, armed with weapons that could turn the prospector into space dust in seconds. From the bridge of the Vengeance, Walker and his crew watched through the view screens. Old Thunder had tapped into the prospector's systems remotely, giving them eyes and ears without revealing their presence on the warship. "They're hailing the prospector," Lisa reported. "Let's hear it," Walker ordered. A harsh voice filled the bridge. "Human vessel, this is Admiral Grex of the Krull Empire. You are trespassing in restricted space. Prepare to be boarded for inspection." Walker looked at his nervous crew. "Options. We could try to explain we're just mining," Tom suggested. Mac shook his head. "The Krull don't care. They'll find us. Take our cargo, maybe even the ship." "What about the Vengeance?" Ben asked. "If they discover it." "They've already seen it," Walker said. "They just don't know it's active." He made a decision. "Old Thunder, can you make the Vengeance appear completely dead if they scan it?" "Affirmative," the eye replied. "All systems can enter ultra-low power mode, appearing dormant to standard scans." "Do it," Walker ordered. He turned to his crew. "I'll go back to the prospector and meet the Krull. The rest of you stay here, out of sight." "Captain," Old Thunder interrupted, "I must advise against this course of action. Admiral Grex is known in my historical database. During the expansion wars, he was a junior officer responsible for 3 unprovoked attacks on human colonies." Walker paused. "That was 300 years ago." "This is the same individual," Old Thunder clarified. "Krull lifespans exceed human standards by a significant margin. My facial recognition is certain." This new information changed things. Walker reconsidered his plan. "Lisa, you're with me on the prospector. Everyone else stays here. Old Thunder, maintain stealth but be ready to act if things go wrong." 30 minutes later, Walker and Lisa stood in the prospector's airlock as it cycled open. 6 Krull soldiers entered, weapons ready. Behind them came Admiral Grex himself, tall and imposing with dark green scales and yellow eyes. "Captain Walker," Grex said, looking around with disgust, "explain your presence in this sector." Walker kept his voice steady. "We're on a standard mining operation, Admiral. We detected mineral deposits and stopped to investigate." Grex's eyes narrowed. "And the derelict vessel beside you?" "Another mining operation. We found it by accident," Walker said truthfully. "An old human ship. We were checking if it had any salvageable parts." "That ship," Grex said slowly, "is not just any vessel. It belongs to a class that supposedly no longer exists." He stepped closer to Walker. "The Thunderstorm program was officially ended after the Proxima Treaty. All such ships were to be dismantled." Walker tried to hide his surprise. "I wouldn't know about that, Admiral. We're just miners." Grex made a sound like grinding stones. A Krull laugh. "Just miners who happened to find one of humanity's most dangerous weapons." He turned to his soldiers. "Search the derelict. I want to know if anything is still operational." Walker tensed. "Admiral, that ship is human property. The treaties give us salvage rights to our own vessels." "The treaties," Grex spat, "are agreements we graciously extended to your kind, despite your warmongering past." His voice rose. "Humans have no idea how close they came to extinction during the expansion wars. Your technology was advancing too quickly. You were becoming a threat." Lisa spoke up. "The wars ended centuries ago. We've been peaceful members of the Council since then." Grex turned his yellow eyes to her. peace on our terms. Your people were so eager to avoid further conflict, they accepted significant restrictions. His mouth formed that terrible smile again. Did you never wonder why the Council limits human military development so severely? Why you cannot build warships beyond a certain size? Why your weapons must be registered and inspected? For everyone's safety, Lisa said, but her voice lacked conviction. For our convenience, Grex corrected. The Council, particularly the Krull Empire, recognized the potential threat. Humans learn too quickly, adapt too easily. He gestured toward the Vengeance. That ship represents what your kind might have become without our guidance. Walker felt cold anger rising. So the treaties weren't fair agreements. They were designed to keep us weak. They were designed to keep you controlled. Grex said, a lesson you seem to have forgotten. He turned to his communication officer. Signal the flagship. Tell them to target the human mining vessel. What? Walker stepped forward. You can't attack us. We've done nothing wrong. Grex pushed him back easily with one clawed hand. I'm not attacking. I'm simply providing a warning demonstration about trespassing in crawl space. He nodded to his officer, who spoke into his communicator. Through the viewport, Walker saw the largest crawl ship turn slightly, its main weapon port glowing with energy. Stop, Walker shouted. This violates every council law. Grex seemed amused. Who will report it? Your ship will suffer an unfortunate accident. The derelict will be removed as space debris. No witnesses. A beam of energy shot from the Krull flagship, striking the prospector's hull. The mining vessel shuddered, and warning alarms blared. That was minimum power, Grex said calmly. The next will disable your engines, then your life support. I want you to understand your complete helplessness before the end. Walker looked at Lisa, whose face showed the same realization he felt. They had no choice. Old Thunder, Walker said clearly. Defensive protocols. Authorization Walker 1. Grex looked confused. What are you? He never finished his question. The viewport showed a sudden burst of light as the Vengeance came to life. Its previously dark hull now glowed with power lines, and its weapon ports opened. Human vessel detected under attack. Old Thunder's voice came through the prospector's communication system. Defensive protocols engage. The Krull soldiers raised their weapons, but before they could fire, a strange humming filled the air. A shimmering field appeared around Walker and Lisa. Portable shield deployed, Old Thunder announced. Captain, I recommend you brace for impact. Outside, the Krull flagship fired again, this time at the Vengeance. The beam struck the ancient warship directly, but instead of causing damage, it seemed to disappear into the hull. A moment later, the Vengeance responded with a single, precise shot that hit the Krull weapon port. The energy weapon collapsed in on itself, disabled but not destroyed. Admiral Grex stared in shock. Impossible. The other two Krull ships opened fire. The Vengeance absorbed their attacks, then fired again. Two quick pulses that left both enemy vessels drifting with their main systems offline. In less than 30 seconds, the entire Krull attack force had been neutralized. What is happening? Grex demanded, his arrogance replaced by confusion. Walker smiled grimly. You said humans learn quickly, Admiral. It seems our ancestors learned not to trust the Krull. News of the encounter spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Within 24 hours, the Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from all 7 major species gathered in the great circular chamber on the massive council station. On the Vengeance, Walker and his crew watched the proceedings through hacked communication channels. Old Thunder had easily broken through the Council's secure broadcasts. The humans have violated the most sacred tenets of our peace, shouted the Krull representative. His voice boomed across the council chamber. They have hidden forbidden military technology and used it against our peacekeeping forces. The human ambassador, a small woman named Director Helen Reed, stood her ground. My government has no knowledge of this vessel. The mining crew that discovered it acted in self-defense after being attacked without provocation. A convenient story, sneered the Crawl. Are we to believe that a mining ship accidentally found and activated one of the most advanced warships ever built by humans? Other council members murmured in agreement. The Volth representative, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms, spoke next. What concerns me is how this ship remained operational after 3 centuries. The power requirements alone should have drained any known energy source. And the weapons, added the representative of the insect-like Trill Collective. Our reports indicate they bypassed Crawl shields, as if they weren't even there. Walker turned to his crew. They're scared, he said. They should be, Mac replied with a grin. Old Thunder here just took out 3 warships without breaking a sweat. The AI's voice came from the speakers. I do not perspire, Engineer Reynolds. But your assessment of the tactical situation is accurate. The Council species are exhibiting clear signs of concern. Back on the screen, Director Reed was speaking again. Earth demands the immediate release of the mining crew. They are civilian workers who acted in self-defense. The Council leader, an ancient Volth named Zoral, leaned forward. What Earth demands is irrelevant. The treaties are clear. This warship must be surrendered to the Council for immediate decommissioning. And if we refuse, Director Reed asked, then Earth will be considered in violation of the Proxima Treaty, with all that implies, Zoral answered coldly. The screen suddenly split to show another image, a man in a formal military uniform. He hadn't been part of the Council meeting. This is Admiral Marcus Grant of Earth Defense Command, the man said. We're receiving the secure transmission meant for this channel. Walker straightened in his chair. This was new. The Admiral continued, Captain Walker of the mining vessel Prospector, if you are watching this broadcast, please be advised that your actions have created a diplomatic crisis. However, Earth government has now been made aware of the existence of Project Thunderstorm contingency vessels. Walker felt all eyes on him. They knew, he whispered. Earth knew these ships were out here. The following message is classified Level Alpha. Admiral Grant said, for Captain Walker and his crew only. The screen changed to show a simple text message. Pro-GCT Thunderstorm Activation Protokigo Elko and Fireend. Vessel UES, then GANC Status. Operational. Command Authorization. Temporary Field Commission. Captain James Walker recognized as Acting Commander. Orders. Hold position. Protect vessel. Await further instructions. Needy SSAGENDs. Silence fell over the bridge of the Vengeance. Did Earth just officially put you in command of this warship? Lisa asked finally. Walker nodded slowly. Looks that way. Old Thunder spoke up. Captain, I have analyzed the transmission. It contains embedded authentication codes matching my original programming. Earth Command has officially recognized your authority. But why? Ben asked. Why not order us to bring the ship back to Earth space? Because they can't, Mac realized. The Council would intercept us. This way, Earth gets to keep the Vengeance active while claiming they're still figuring out what to do. Walker turned back to the screen, which had returned to the Council meeting. The atmosphere had changed dramatically. The human ambassador stood taller, more confident. Earth government is investigating this situation, Director Reed was saying. Until we determine the exact nature and purpose of this vessel, we cannot simply surrender it. This is outrageous. The Crawl representative shouted. The humans are stalling while they activate more of these hidden weapons. The Council leader raised a hand for silence. Director Reed, your position is untenable. The Proxima Treaty specifically banned this class of vessel. Historical records clearly show all Thunderstorm program ships were decommissioned. Reed smiled slightly. With respect, those records were provided by the Council. Our own archives tell a different story. The treaty banned new construction of such vessels, but existing ships were to be placed in reserve status. not destroyed. This created an uproar in the chamber. Various representatives shouted over each other until the council leader banged his ceremonial staff for order. "This deliberate misinterpretation will not stand," the leader declared. "The council hereby demands the immediate surrender of the vessel designated HYF Vengeance. You have 48 hours to comply. And if we need more time to investigate," Reed asked. "Then the council will take appropriate action," the leader replied. "This meeting is adjourned." As the screen went dark, Walker's crew looked at each other with concern. "What does appropriate action mean?" Tom asked nervously. "It means they're coming for us," Walker said. "Old Thunder, what's our tactical situation?" The AI displayed a holographic map of the sector. Council forces are mobilizing. 50 ships from all 7 species are being assembled into what they are designating the Grand Fleet. Their estimated arrival time is 43 hours from now. 50 ships. Lisa gasped. "We can't fight that many." "Actually," Old Thunder replied, "I was designed for precisely such a scenario." The Thunderstorm program's purpose was to create vessels capable of engaging numerically superior forces. Walker studied the map. "You're saying we can win against 50 ships." "I am saying we can fight effectively," Old Thunder clarified. "Victory depends on our objectives and the enemy's determination." "Our objective is to stay alive," Walker said firmly, "and to keep this ship out of their hands." Old Thunder's lights pulsed in what the crew now recognized as acknowledgement. "In that case, Captain, I should inform you of the Vengeance's full capabilities. Some systems were not revealed earlier as they required command authorization. A new set of schematics appeared, showing weapons and defensive systems that made even Mac's jaw drop." "Is that what I think it is?" the engineer asked, pointing to one particular system. "Yes," Old Thunder confirmed. "The temporal displacement field. It was considered the most classified technology in the human arsenal." Walker looked at the schematics with growing amazement. "They're coming with 50 ships," he said softly. "And they still have no idea what they're up against." The Grand Fleet arrived exactly as predicted. 50 warships from all 7 Council species formed a sphere around the Vengeance, weapons ready. From the smallest Trill scout ships to the massive Volth dreadnoughts, it was the largest battle group assembled since the Expansion Wars. Walker stood on the bridge of the ancient warship, outwardly calm despite the tension flowing through his body. His crew had spent the last 2 days learning everything they could about the Vengeance's systems. Now they manned their stations with nervous determination. "Enemy fleet is holding position at 10,000 kilometers," Lisa reported from the sensor station. They'd formed a complete blockade. No blind spots. "They're being cautious," Walker noted. "Good. That means they respect what we did to the crawl ships." A message alert sounded. "Captain," Old Thunder announced, "we are receiving a transmission from the Council flagship." "On screen," Walker ordered. The main display showed a Volth admiral, his blue skin wrinkled with age, 4 arms clasped before him in a formal posture. "Human vessel, this is Grand Admiral Corvus of the Galactic Council Combined Fleet. You have been declared in violation of interstellar treaty. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded." Walker stepped forward. "This is Captain James Walker. My crew and I acted in self-defense after being attacked by crawl forces. We have committed no crime." The Volth's expression didn't change. "The vessel you control is itself a violation. Its very existence breaks the peace established centuries ago." "A peace built on lies," Walker replied. "We now know the treaties were designed to keep humanity weak, while the Council races maintained military superiority." "A necessary arrangement," Corvus said without shame. "Humans advanced too quickly. In just a few centuries, you went from primitive planet-bound creatures to creating ships like the one you now command." Walker glanced at his crew, then back at the screen. "And that frightened you?" "It concerned us," the Admiral corrected. "The other races needed millennia to achieve what humans did in mere generations. The treaties were meant to allow time for cultural maturity to match technological capability." Max snorted from his station. They were afraid we'd take their place. The Admiral heard this. Fear is a reasonable response to a potential threat. History is filled with the remains of civilizations that failed to recognize danger until too late. His voice hardened. You have one final opportunity to surrender. After that, we will take action. Walker took a deep breath. And if we refuse, then we will destroy your vessel and everyone aboard. The Admiral's tone was matter-of-fact. We regret this necessity, but the safety of the galactic community takes precedence over individual lives. The screen went dark. Walker turned to his crew. Options. We can't outrun them, Ben said from Tactical. Even with the Vengeance's advanced engines, there are too many ships to break through. Fight, Max suggested, though his voice lacked conviction. Lisa shook her head. Against 50 ships. Even Old Thunder said survival wasn't guaranteed. Walker looked at the main display, which showed the ring of enemy vessels surrounding them. He had been just a simple mining captain a few days ago. Now he commanded the most powerful human warship ever built, facing an impossible situation. Old Thunder, he said finally, you were designed for this exact scenario. What would your original commanders have done? The AI's voice was calm. The Vengeance was created as a force equalizer, not a first-strike weapon. Its purpose was to demonstrate capability while minimizing casualties. Show, don't destroy, Walker murmured. Precisely, Old Thunder confirmed. The Thunderstorm program's ultimate objective was diplomatic, not military. To ensure humans would be treated as equals, not subordinates. Walker straightened. Then that's what we'll do. Old Thunder, prepare all defensive systems. Be ready to execute tactical jump pattern Omega on my command. Tactical jump, Tom asked. What's that? Walker smiled grimly. Something they won't expect. On the Council flagship, Admiral Corvus watched the countdown timer with resignation. The humans had been given 30 minutes to surrender. Only 2 minutes remained. No response from the human vessel, his communications officer reported. Corvus nodded. As expected, prepare all ships to fire on my command. Target their engine systems first, then weapons. We want to disable, not destroy if possible. Sir, his second-in-command said quietly, the historical records indicate Thunderstorm-class vessels had significant defensive capabilities. The crawling counter suggests those systems are still operational. That's why we brought 50 ships, Corvus replied. No defense can withstand that much firepower. The timer reached 0. Open fire, Corvus ordered. Across the Grand Fleet, weapons charged and fired, sending beams and projectiles toward the lone human warship. The combined firepower could have reduced a small moon to rubble. But the Vengeance wasn't there anymore. In the instant before the weapons struck, the ancient warship vanished. Where did it go? Corvus demanded. Unknown, sir. Our sensors show. The officer never finished his sentence. The Vengeance appeared directly beside the nearest Trill vessel, so close they almost touched. Before anyone could react, a pulse of energy shot from the human ship into the Trill vessel. The Trill ship's lights flickered, then went dark, drifting powerless. Then the Vengeance vanished again. It reappeared next to a Kraul cruiser. Another pulse, another disabled ship. Then it jumped again, and again. Across the Grand Fleet, chaos erupted as the Vengeance jumped from position to position, appearing without warning, disabling ships, then disappearing before they could respond. Impossible, Corvus shouted. No ship can jump with that precision. The power requirements alone. The Vengeance appeared directly in front of his flagship's bridge. Through the view screen, Corvus could see the ancient human vessel hovering just meters away. Its weapon ports glowed with energy, aimed directly at him. The communication system activated. Walker's voice filled the bridge. Admiral Corvus, your fleet has been neutralized. 20 of your ships are now powerless. The rest are isolated and vulnerable. I suggest you reconsider your position. Corvus stared in disbelief. How? How did you do this? Human ingenuity, Walker replied simply. The same quality that frightened the Council centuries ago. At that moment, alarms blared through the flagship. Sir, the tactical officer shouted, the Dorn destroyer is attempting to self-destruct rather than be captured. On his auxiliary screen, Corvus saw the Dorn vessel's power core building to critical levels. Such an explosion would destroy not only the Dorn ship, but any vessels nearby, including other Council ships. Stop them, Corvus ordered, knowing it was too late. But then, something extraordinary happened. A shimmering field appeared around the Dorn vessel, encasing it in a bubble of strange, distorted space. Inside the bubble, everything seemed to slow down. The building explosion froze in mid-formation. Temporal displacement field activated, came Old Thunder's voice over the open channel. Slowing time within the containment area to give your crews time to evacuate. Even Corvus couldn't hide his shock. Time manipulation. That's beyond any known technology. Not beyond human technology, Walker corrected. Just hidden from you. As the Council crews evacuated their ships in escape pods, Walker's message continued to all listening vessels. For centuries, humanity accepted unfair treaties because we valued peace. But we never surrendered our ability to defend ourselves. The Vengeance is one of several ships placed in reserve throughout the galaxy. Insurance against exactly this kind of situation. Corvus sank into his command chair. We have underestimated you, he admitted. Yes, Walker agreed. But more importantly, you misunderstood us. We demonstrated our power today without taking a single life. The Vengeance could have destroyed your fleet, but that was never our intention. 1 week later, Walker stood in the observation lounge of the Vengeance, watching as diplomatic vessels from Earth arrived to begin new negotiations with the Council. The ancient warship that no one had feared had changed the balance of power in a single day. What happens now? Lissa asked, joining him at the window. Walker smiled. Now, humanity takes its rightful place, not through conquest or domination, but through respect. We proved we had the power to destroy them, and the wisdom not to use it. Behind them, Old Thunder's voice spoke softly. That was always the plan. My creators understood that true peace comes only between equals. Outside, the stars shone on a galaxy forever changed by an ancient ship no one feared, until it obliterated their fleet.